All right, everyone, this is the American Werewolf, and I'm here today to talk to you about the first Omen, which is a prequel to the 1976 Donner film that is considered to be one of the all-time horror classics. Now, for me personally, I never liked the Omen. The original Omen, 1976. To me, it was just part of a producer-driven thing where you could capitalize on the success of The Exorcist, which is one of the greatest horror movies of all time and probably one of the greatest films of all time. But I think you had a lot of producers saying the devil is really hot right now, and how can we capitalize on this success? I got it. Or somebody came up with this idea, whoever wrote the screenplay for the original Omen, and said, I've got it. We can have the Antichrist. And of course, we had a 12-year-old girl, so now we got to have a 5-year-old boy. And the problem that I had with the original film was that I just didn't find it to be particularly scary. It's not a bad concept, but you were also greatly limited by the kid who was cast as Damien Thorne, which is sort of unfair, but at the same time, you can only expect so much from a 5-year-old kid. You can't do anything. So the kid isn't actually scary. And you had Gregory Peck. So, you had Von Sydow in The Exorcist. And now you've got Gregory Peck. And, he was kind of geezerish at that point. You had Lee Remick. And I didn't really care. And I didn't find it scary. And the Antichrist was a 5-year-old boy who never really did anything except make faces. So what I actually found to be far more effective and frightening was 2026 remake of The Exorcist with Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles. And by then, acting styles had expanded and range had expanded. And we got a kid that actually looked kind of scary. And I loved the dream images that Julia Stiles and Liev Schreiber went through, because something deep in their subconscious was letting them know that something was wrong with this son of theirs, especially Schreiber, who knew that this was not his biological son. Something was wrong with this boy. And so that fed a lot into the same sort of story, but it just added some context and a little bit of depth. And I love that just for a moment, maybe you actually saw what this little kid was, the brief sort of flashing images. But here we are in 2024, and we are setting up the prequel for the birth of the Antichrist. And it starts off as another nunsploitation movie starring someone I don't really know. Let me see, Nell Tiger Free, and it's directed by Arkasha Stevenson and co-written by him in terms of the screenplay. And it's set in, I think, 1971 Rome, very much like Immaculate, the Sydney Sweeney movie I saw 2 weeks ago, where you have a novitiate ready to take her vows, goes into Rome, it's this great place to, take her vows, and uncovers a conspiracy within the church. Now, call me crazy, but I'm starting to think that Hollywood has an anti-Catholic bent. Gee, who would guess that? But what ends up happening is she uncovers a plot by the church. And this is what I thought was interesting about it, because I'm going to make this mostly majority spoiler review. This won't really tell you too much. There's a plot within the church to bring the Antichrist forward, because the church, in its more severe leaning segments, feels that the new enemy in society is secularism. Imagine that. And here we are in 2024, and they're setting it, 50 years before this, and that the enemy is secularism. People are casting aside tradition, thumbing their nose, giving the finger to all the structures in society. So these psychotics within the church think that they're going to bring about the Antichrist, show the world the devil, because they can control the devil, and then that will bring people back into the church. It's not a bad idea, depending on, actually, I just don't think that that's a terrible idea. And I thought it was a much better idea than the Immaculate idea, which was that They had DNA samples from the nails that went through Christ's hands or feet, and so they were trying to recreate another Christ, through modern science. This wasn't a bad idea. It's not badly acted. It definitely has some moments. There are some threads that don't go anywhere or just aren't really explained. And that caught me a couple of times. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened with this? Or wait a minute, what happened with that? It's not perfect, but it's got great mood. It's got great atmospherics. It was completely worth, I got the Regal Unlimited pass. So, I spend $21.99 a month and I can see as many movies as I want. So I'm thinking now, would it be worth the $15 if I had seen it? And maybe. It's not the best horror movie I've ever seen. I think it was better than Immaculate. I think it's not nearly as good as David Dalsmosian's Late Night with the Devil, which is the best horror film I've seen this year so far. But it's interesting. And with everything we know between 1976 and today and all the films that have been made, religious horror, that sort of thing, I'm open to the idea that and I can't believe I'm saying this, that they might actually consider rebooting The Omen. There's so much more that you could do today. There are so many more ideas out there. It's a much more rich foundation for religious horror. And maybe I'm being unfair to the Donner film in 1976, but the second movie was just, I didn't get it with William Holden, and he's like a 12-year-old boy. He's just annoying or something like that. And then the third movie, which I don't really remember, but it had Sam Neill in it. So if you could advance it that way, I would be interested in seeing it. You could recast everybody, because I already saw what they could do in 2006, and I was pretty impressed that they were able to capitalize and make improvements, which is, the point, I think, of remakes. If you're going to have remakes, and I'm not a remake, person, my friend Eric says, remake everything, and I think he's only half joking. But if you could do something like this and make it better, why wouldn't you do it? Now, this does offer some, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but it offers some original threads so that there is an opening for another film. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'm kind of curious. Now, this movie had a budget of $30 million, which is modest, but not nearly as modest as Late Night with the Devil, which I think was $2 million, or even like Godzilla Minus One, which was like just over 10 million or somewhere around 10 million. I think Sydney Sweeney's Immaculate was 9 million. So, this opening weekend so far, I think it's looking at about $3 million. It's got generally positive reviews, but it might be struggling at the box office because, as someone said, who is necessarily watching 50-year-old horror movies? So young people today might not even know what 1976's The Omen actually is. So to set up a prequel that way, it's a little tough. It's certainly better than, if we're talking about prequels or extensions into franchises, it's certainly better than David Gordon Green's The Exorcist Believer, which is, The Exorcist, which is like the epitome, the pinnacle of religious horror. It was way better than that. It was way better than that. So for $30 million, I'd like to, I'm going to tell you right now, if you've got the time and you don't mind spending the money for a ticket, go see it. I'm telling everybody right now, though, if you've got a Regal Cinema and you're a movie fan, if you've got a Regal Cinemas next to you or somewhere close to you, spend the $21.99. It's 50 cents. I think it's 53 cents every time I go see a movie. And it just makes my life a lot easier. Because when I saw a movie like Kong Godzilla, The New Empire, I wasn't bent out of shape because I didn't spend $15. I spent 53 cents. When I went to go see Ms. Marvel, and I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, I spent 53 cents. My buddy joined me later on with his son, who's like a ninth grader. They wanted to see it. He ended up spending $40. He was a little pissed off about how much the movie sucked. And, being his friend, I kind of laughed at him. But I spent, 53 cents. So get the Regal app or get some sort of app where you can save money on these tickets and go check it out. It's worthwhile. If you're, if you've got a budget theater, close to you, go check it out. This movie is worth checking out. I'm enjoying generally what they're doing with these films. The Nun Part 2, Immaculate, now this. Who knows what's coming next? Their openings with this film, and I hope that they do something with it. I hope that there's more coming, and I hope people go check it out. So my rating system right now goes from 0 to 5. I'm going to give this 3 out of 5, and you should definitely go check it out. 3 out of 5, The American Werewolf. That's my video. Like this video. Leave a comment. Let me know. Did you see it? Are you going to see it? Have I changed your mind? If you did see it, what did you think? Subscribe to the channel. I will see you all in the next video. All right, everybody. Take care. Happy Sunday. God bless you. Bye-bye.